Big, huge, gigantic warning before we begin this video. Kids, please ask your parents before playing Among Us, and parents, don't let them. Well, maybe that's a bit too harsh. If they want to play with friends, that's totally fine. The quote-unquote violence in the game isn't the real issue here. It's playing with strangers that's the problem. Every Among Us game features an open chat room that allows players to say whatever they want to everyone in the game. Of course, there are simple swear filters, and you can kick someone if every single person agrees. But at least as of the recording of this video, there is no way to report a player for misconduct. So, not only can someone very easily bypass the swear filters and say whatever garbage they want to everyone in the game, but there is absolutely no way to make sure that person gets banned from future games by sending in a complaint to some sort of moderation team. As far as I know, no such team even exists. And hey, maybe the game just has too small a staff, or they didn't want players getting confused with the report body feature that's already in the gameplay, I don't know. But this feature desperately needs to be added yesterday. In my case, however, the complete lack of accountability in the game's chat rooms turned out to play a crucial role in the miracle I was lucky enough to be involved in that saved someone's life. And let me first of all clarify that I mean someone's actual, in real life here. This is not some silly story about a 200 IQ play that helped me save a fellow imposter's in-game life. It involves real talk about suicide, and we're gonna get a little deep. So if that's not for you, please feel free to go watch something else or whatever, but if you have been struggling with suicidal thoughts, or if you want to be better prepared to maybe someday save someone's life yourself, I encourage you to stick it out. My promise is, it'll be worth it. So, the context. After downloading Among Us on my phone and getting all the footage for our previous video, I had no real use for the app anymore, so I just threw it in my junk folder and planned on deleting it later. So, later that week, I decided, you know what, I want to play just one more round and then delete it for good. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah, the crewmates on my team that game were absolutely awful, as they are in most public games, so the imposter ended up winning. I opened up the post-game chat to yell at them when, out of nowhere, one of the players, we'll call him Light Green, drops a bomb. 4 little words. 4 little words was all they sent in the chat. I'm ending it tonight. Yikes. I wasn't sure if he was joking or not, so I quickly asked him if he was serious, and he replied with a resounding yee. Now, normally, I hate it when people say yee because it's couldn't you have taken the 2 milliseconds to write that extra S and make it a real word? But anyways, in this instance, it really shook me up. I'm lucky enough to never have known anyone battling with suicide or have dealt with it myself, so I had absolutely no idea what to say to this guy. I thought maybe something would come to me if I had more information, so I simply asked him why. He responded, life just isn't the same, which is totally valid and something that a lot of people are dealing with right now, but it didn't really give me any better ideas what to say. Since he told me about a vague problem, I offered him a vague solution. I said to him, I've totally been there before myself. Things will get better. And while that is very likely true, on the roller coaster of life, things always do get better, eventually, they always end up going downhill again. If I had to guess, I'd say that Light Green had gone up and down so many times that he'd just gotten sick of the ride and wanted a way off. Needless to say, my reassurances did nothing for him, and he started getting into some of the terrible, awful details of his plan that I'm not going to share. At this point, understandably, I was starting to panic. I did not know what to do. For some reason, and I don't know why, my mind kept going to that scene in Infinity War when Rocket's talking with Thor. Well, at least you have a dad and sister.
Both dead too.
But you still have a mom, right?
Killed by a generic dark elf.
Do you have a generic best friend?
He was stabbed through the heart.
You're not helping here, Rocket. But do you see where I'm coming from? I could have continued to ask questions about this guy's situation, and who knows, maybe I could have gotten lucky. But that's just it. If I asked him the right question, it might have helped me help him, but if I asked the wrong question, it could have very well shoved some of the painful memories he was dealing with right in his face and sent him over the edge. Not something I wanted to do. So, I asked him this. Have you heard of the good news? He replied, and that is, suddenly, I had a glimmer of hope. Not only did he not just reply with "ye" again, but much more importantly, he seemed genuinely curious. Someone who had completely given up on life probably wouldn't care about any news, good or bad, because they had already made up their mind. That didn't seem to be the case with Light Green, so maybe, just maybe, there is still a chance to save him. So I told him the good news, also known as the gospel message. Jesus died for your sins, and if you believe in him, you can have eternal life in heaven. That's what I believe as a Christian, and if you disagree, that's your own prerogative. But I have seen this message change lives, including my own. All I could hope for is that it would save Light Green's life too, and more importantly, save his soul. He responded with something along the lines of, "I know all that, and I have a tat," which I totally knew meant tattoo, and I definitely did not have to ask him about it or anything, but actually it's a good thing I did ask him, because he elaborated even further. He said his tat was of the Bible passage Psalm 91. This was finally the information I needed. It was the bridge to him in his life that I could use to help him in a way that he would actually connect with. To cross this bridge, I needed to read Psalm 91 as soon as I could, but I obviously didn't want to close Among Us on my phone so I could open up the Bible app. Problem was, my physical Bible was on my desk, on the other side of my dorm. That might not sound like an issue to most people, but I have a broken foot at the moment, and getting up to walk with crutches is unbearably slow. I knew time was at the essence, so I ditched the crutches and hopped across the room as fast as I could on my good foot, snatched up my Bible, and hopped right on back to my bed. I flipped right to Psalm 91 and started scanning it like a madman, frantically searching for something, for anything that could help this guy. I could feel the clock ticking down as I skimmed and skimmed and skimmed the passage. There's lots of good stuff in there, but nothing I could find that would particularly help someone suicidal. Once again, I had that overwhelming feeling. I can't do this. For the life of me, I could not find anything fast enough that would be beneficial to the situation. You may not understand just how quickly people can leave public Among Us games. I mean, everyone else in the lobby had completely dipped at this point. We were the only two left. The last thing I wanted was for him to leave before I could get the chance to respond to him, so I just asked him to cut out the middleman and go read Psalm 91 himself, whether that's in a Bible or directly from the tattoo, which, if that was the case, would have been quite the sight. Anyways, he was quiet for a long time after that, but surprisingly, never left the lobby. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he spoke up. "I'm gonna give life one more chance," he said. "Thanks." I could not believe it. I mean, obviously it was incredible news, but I had so many questions, like what? How? What did he find that I couldn't? Dumbfounded at this point, I told him I'd be praying for him, and I kid you not, seconds later, the lobby timed out and we were both booted off. Well, now I was even more in awe. I immediately gave Psalm 91 a more thorough read over, and in the very last two verses, which is why I missed it, it says, "He will call on me," this is God talking, "and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation." Like I said before, believe what you want to believe, but it's hard to deny that this story is short of miraculous. I believe that God put me in this perfect place at the perfect time under the perfect circumstances and used me to help show this guy his salvation and give him a long life. Words can't describe how amazing that feels. If you have a better explanation as to how I somehow managed to save this guy despite not having a clue what I was doing, please feel free to comment with it down below. For now though, if you're out there today fighting the battle against suicide, first of all, I'm really sorry. I can't begin to imagine all that you're facing, and those around you probably don't know your pain either. That's why it's so important to tell someone about your struggles. Please don't face this alone. Don't pretend like you're fine to everyone else. Telling someone in an online game like Among Us definitely is not the best way to do this, and you probably won't always find the help and encouragement I was somehow able to give Light Green, but surely there's someone in your life that you can trust enough to ask for help. If for some reason there's not, there are tons of resources out there run by legions of people who genuinely care about you and your well-being, being only a text or call away. I'll link some of those resources in the description below, so please don't hesitate to check them out if it's something you know you need. And for those of you who want to be better prepared than I was if and when you get the chance to save someone's life, my best advice for you is just to be the person that someone struggling will trust enough to talk to. Be a good friend, be a good family member, be someone who shows the people around them that they mean something to you. If you get to know someone well enough, hopefully you'll be able to tell if they're just pretending that everything's okay. Or hopefully they'll just come to you on their own. But most importantly, being a genuine and caring friend to someone will make it much less likely that they even become suicidal in the first place. Finally, I can't really give the best advice on saving complete strangers' lives because everyone is different. It's very doubtful that the stranger that you might come across one day will have a Psalm 91 tat. All I'll say is try to find a similar bridge to them in their lives. Just having a simple conversation with them is a great way to do this. Honestly, with Light Green, I was probably being a bit too paranoid that asking any question could lead to disaster. While I still think it's true to a point that you should probably steer clear of topics that could upset anyone, you're probably good to probe a lot more than I did. Even if your questions do upset them, if you learn how to successfully help them through that, it'll obviously be worth it. And with that, I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was definitely very different and much more serious than our usual content, but I felt like I had to get the story out there. If you have your own story of saving someone's life, or if this video somehow helped you do it, I would love to hear about it. So please share your stories in a comment down below. And light green, if for some crazy reason you're out there watching this, I hope that life has been treating you better. I really do. Like I said, I have been praying for you that you would continue to give life a chance. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Remember to be ready, because you never know when you'll get the chance to save someone's life.